precious time out of your busy Saturdays to come and do this. We obviously consider something that's very important, and we're looking to get your input on this. And we thank you for taking the time to help us out on this issue. And just by a quick way of introduction, who's going to be sitting up here. Of course, over on the far side over here, our staff member Charles Headley has been very helpful in getting all this arranged and put together. And believe it or not, we actually have AC in here because of the work he was doing yesterday. It may not feel like it immediately, but there is actually AC in here. You've noticed it for a while. Immediately next to him is Senator Laura Woods and Senator Kevin Lundberg, myself, Senator Kevin Grantham, Senator Sherry John, good to have her here today, Senator Ray Scott, and Senator Jerry Sonner. So we look forward to being able to hear you all today and to get your input on this issue of where do we go from here? Primaries, caucuses, neither, all of the above, etc. We look forward to your comments. I'm probably going to open this up first to Senator Woods and come on across the dais and just some opening remarks from each senator. Senator Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to add my thanks to you all being here today. This is an important topic. I want to thank my colleagues for getting time out of their schedule also to support the issue. And we're glad you're here. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say. And as you know, we're going to move around the state with these meetings so that we get a good feel from the citizens north, south, east, and west to try to figure out exactly how we should move forward with elections in Colorado. So I'm glad you're here, and I'll pass it off to Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Senator Woods. I attended my first caucus in 1972, and I think I've attended every one that I possibly could since then, and have watched the way it does work, which I actually have a great deal of confidence in. I've talked to other legislators from around the country who have more of a primary system, and there are weaknesses to that, and admittedly some strengths as well. But this past year, we've seen a lot of concern expressed, and I believe that we need to be very intentional, and we need to get the facts before us to determine what is the best system for conducting the primary selection process for the parties. For that reason, I'm anxious to be a part of this and look forward to not only the information we'll pick up here today, but at the other meetings we'll hold around the state, as well as those who will give us their comments through the survey that we put together. So thank you for coming, and let's figure things out correctly.
Thank you, Senator Brendan. And I just appreciate all of you taking your staff days to come down here, and that shows you what an incredibly important topic this has been, which is why I was excited to be able to come and participate, because I've heard so much about the primaries and the caucus system these past several months. So it is something that is important to the voters. It certainly is not a partisan issue. And so I think it's just important anytime when we have a public hearing where you actually get to sit and listen to citizens, it's just really important to participate. So thank you for taking time to do that.
Thank you, Senator Grantham, and thank you, my colleagues. Thanks to all of you for spending some time with us on a nice, cool Saturday afternoon to have this discussion. It's obviously very important to the voters of Colorado in this life, and we want your assistance in doing that. So, without spending any more time jabbering myself, I'm looking forward to hearing all thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all as well for being here. It is indeed important to have this discussion. I do also look forward to your comments and your suggestions and possibilities and all of the volunteers. Thank you.
Thank you, Senators. We're just going to dive right into this, folks. We have several folks here that are going to have to speak on the front end, and then we'll get into public testimony just as quickly as we possibly can. We have representatives from the Libertarian Party, the Republican Party, and hopefully we have some folks here for the Democrat Party as well to give their groups input on this. We also have some representatives of the Colorado Secretary of State, the Colorado County Clerks Association, as well as the Colorado Voter Group and the Colorado Vote. What I'm going to do, each of these individuals that we have assigned on the agenda to speak for these groups is given a 5-minute time period to give their comments. And we'll go through those each, and then we'll open it up to public testimony as everybody is signed in. If you haven't signed in yet, please go ahead and take care of that over here at the door of the table where the staff is seated, and we will get you on the list and prepare to testify. As far as the public testimony, we have that scheduled for 3 minutes each, and then there will be some Q&A available for each, whether it's those on the front end of the agenda or the public testimony. So we will go ahead and get this started. In order to expedite this, probably going to go ahead and have the representatives from the Libertarian Party, the Republican Party, and the Democrat Party. If they could just come on up here to the seats, and then we'll just have you go one by one. Is Mr. Jay North here? Sir, good to have you here. Mr. Steve House. Did Mr. Palacio come, or Democrat Party representatives?
She's for the Republicans, and she's going to take part in the House's budget.
Oh, okay, thank you. Go ahead. This I don't see a representative from the Democrat Party. It's unfortunate. We do thank Senator Brown. We will begin with you, Mr. North, and go ahead and introduce yourself. This is for everybody that comes up here to testify. You just introduce yourself, who you represent. That'll be helpful for those that are listening, and thank you to the Libertarian Party also for live streaming this to your folks. That's a good thing. And Mr. North, you just go ahead and take it away and begin, and appreciate you.
Is this already on?
I believe it is.
I appreciate the opportunity to come speak for the Libertarian Party regarding the presidential primary in question. My name is Jay North. I'm the state chair of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. I'm going to read you the platform claim. We support election systems that are more representative of the electorate at the national, state, and local levels. As private voluntary groups, political parties should be allowed to establish their own rules for nomination procedures, primaries, and conventions. We call for an end to any tax finance subsidies to candidates or parties, and the repeal of all laws which restrict voluntary individual financing of election campaigns. We oppose laws that effectively exclude alternate candidates and parties, deny ballot access, gerrymandered districts, or deny the voters their right to consider all legitimate alternatives. So that's the Libertarian Party of Colorado's platform. Political parties must be allowed to establish their own rules for nomination procedures. As Libertarians, we call for the end to tax-funded financing to parties and call for the repeal of all government responsible. The Libertarian Party strenuously opposes any attempt to create yet another primary in Colorado. If a political party, Colorado Voter Group, or Let Colorado Vote wants to have a primary, they can fund it themselves. They do not need to use the force of government to fund it for them. As Libertarians, we call on those who want yet another primary to fund it themselves and to stop asking government to steal other people's money for their pet projects. I am going to be succinct as this is an easy issue. Any and all primaries can only exist by stealing funds from the people. Anyone who wants to force others to pay for a primary have a hidden agenda, and I, along with the Libertarian Party, question their motives and desire to use the force of it. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. North? Senator Wood.
Thank you for being here today. So I just want to make sure I understand. Are you opposed to a new primary only if it's paid for with taxpayer dollars, or are you opposed to the idea of a new primary without the payment of tax dollars?
If somebody wants to fund a primary outside of using government dollars, the Libertarian Party would not oppose that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And on the ballot initiative that's on the ballot for this fall, number 98, are you familiar with the language of that ballot initiative?
I am.
Do you feel that it's inclusive of minor parties or exclusive, or do you have a sense of that?
So both 98 and 140 are both exclusive minor parties.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any others? Thank you, Mr. Norton. Go ahead, stay put in case anything else might come up. And just by way of note, senators and all those who are here to testify today, if you're used to the typical public testimony phase during committee hearings, let's just keep it more of an open dialogue instead of having to go through the chair ones and keep it civil once to speak. Then we won't have any problems. Otherwise, we won't need to run through me every time somebody wants to talk. Okay? Let's just do that. Mr. House and Ms. Cage are both here for the Republican Party, so whoever wants to start with.
So my name is Steve House, I'm the chairman of the Colorado Legislature. I brought up my Cage with me because I'm already on record in my stance on the presidential primary. She represents our executive committee, which is an important aspect of our party, and I would like her to testify for the executive committee. But before we get to that, I'm going to bring up 3 points. Number one is there is evidence from the 90s that a presidential primary decreases caucus participation. So first and foremost, I don't blame that strictly on presidential primary. Caucus participation is very dependent on how you actually structure and run a caucus. And right now, the Republican Party is undertaking a process in the beginning phases to make caucus more viable, more entertaining, more consistent, more process structured, so that people who go there do not complain about the process or the time it takes. That will extend to our assembly process as well. And I think any concerns about a presidential primary taking away the caucus without concerns, but I think part of this is coming upon us as a party to do a better job of caucus in general. So I don't believe caucus has to be heard by presidential primary. If that is implemented, I don't want it to as a party chairman. I'm planning on doing everything I can to improve caucus, period, because I think it has to remain. It's not a decision that stands with you, it's a decision that stands with the party and membership, and we're going to do everything we can to support it. Secondly, the delegates to that poll. Those rules will be reviewed in July at the convention. They may or may not be changed. They could also be changed post the convention. As it stands today, I think between now and the time we next presidential election, that the concept of a preference poll or binding poll in the absence of a presidential primary is very, very likely. So the binding of delegates via preference poll, the rules will change, but probably be an option for the party to take if you get the support to do that in the party, as opposed to nothing at all like this year. So one of the options would be, if it doesn't happen, if we don't have a presidential primary, would be to support the idea of a preference poll that was binding, allocate the funds for it out of the party and make that happen. That's a real possibility. Thirdly, binding and allocation are 2 different issues. So if you get down the road of a presidential primary, you realize that the way the rules are today is that binding is done by the MRC rules. And the only real gating item on binding is if you do a preference poll in a primary, you must bind the delegates according to the outcome of that. Binding or allocation related to that is the date of March 15th is a current date that I'm expected to change. So if you conduct a presidential primary or preference poll prior to March 15th, you must do a proportional allocation of delegates. I don't know whether the state legislature will get into that level of discussion. There's another rule within the state Republican Party bylaws that states that the chairman, the national committee, or the chairman, vice chairman, and the secretary will decide if there is a presidential primary on how many delegates are allocated per congressional district out of the total. So keeping in mind that there's some flexibility here for people who want to say, okay, run a presidential primary, but only bind delegates that are bound for state capital delegates. The number of those delegates will be decided by the chairman, vice chairman, and secretary of the party at that time. and then congressional delegations will then bind the rest of the delegates. So there is no scenario I know of the rules where you can bind part of the delegates and not the rest of them if you run a presidential primary, because our RNC rules would trump that when it comes down to binding if you run a presidential primary. And I will turn it over to Paige.
Thank you, Steve, for allowing me this part of your time, and thank you for nominating me to do this, and for the executive committee for unanimously putting me here. And I'd like to thank the senators for creating the study group. I think it's an excellent idea, and I also want to thank you for stopping the primary bills for coming through the last part of the election legislation session. Thank you for doing that this year and for doing it last year. As I've been studying, I realized that this has been a push that is not new, and that I've also realized that a lot of what's happening here is based on perception rather than reality. The perception is that if we actually have a presidential election, then the delegates can be bound by that state-funded election. And it doesn't happen. There's been an article written by David French that points out the legislation, the court case, the Cousins versus Wagoda case, where the High Court decided that the states, the delegates that were elected by the state process didn't get seated, but the ones that were elected by the party did, because it's up to the parties to choose who represents them. I think talking about perception, that's another thing. We perceive that the Republicans and Democrats are part of the government. They are not part of the government. They are the people's groups that have gathered in order to represent a different point of view. Another perception, this year is the study course for the schools of Colorado, written by the state superintendent of public instruction from 1912. 1912, this book has everything that was taught to every child in the state of Colorado from kindergarten through 12th grade. By the end of 8th grade, our students were supposed to have been educated enough in American government to be able to compare our government with that of foreign countries, and to be able to generally review and make a careful comparison of our moral, social, political, and industrial rights. When I first picked up this book, I thought, oh my gosh, we've gone so far away from this succinct education. But what I found in reading over it, that this is actually kind of the beginning of the progressive movement. If you think back and during my study from the study group, I realized that 1912 was also the time when the Titanic sunk. And it was also the time when the Republican Party sunk, because they had the first primary elections. And by primary election, Roosevelt had more delegates than Taft. And they got into the convention, and the convention was run as it should have been, and Taft won. Roosevelt would have won if his delegates had not abstained from voting. He would have gotten the most votes, but they had decided to split off and do a new party. And like I said, I'm just studying this, but I thought, isn't that amazing that these children who have been taught with a book that says, since the object of our schools is to train children to become intelligent, good citizens when grown up, an ideal of school citizenship should be developed. And in the 5th and 6th grades, the child should realize that each political unit, precinct, city, county, state, and nation, is a group of people organized in a manner as to do for the members of each group that kind of work, which we all need to have done. And reading through this is the whole civics center. This is the whole civics course for all of years, these 2 printed pages. But what I'm seeing from them is the idea, sit down and shut up and fill in the correct blank. And I think that's part of the progressive movement, is they want us to sit down, shut up, and fill in the correct blank, and they get to tell us what the correct blank is. And if we go to a primary election, it's another opportunity for us as citizens to be told to sit down and shut up and fill in the correct blank, because our opinions don't matter.
Thank you. Are there any questions for any of our city members?
Thank you. Thank you for being here, all of you. Steve, I have a question about the caucuses. And what I've heard from citizens, both in door knocking and during the session when the bills were running through, complaints about, as you're working to improve caucuses, I want to just put these out there and make sure you know them. They're expensive, they're time consuming. A Saturday might be more convenient for some. And I'm interested in your opinion. You were talking about presidential primary reducing caucus participation. Do you think that it reduces it less if it happens after the caucus?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if we know the actual impact of that. I think you brought up another point, though, which is, should we be doing caucuses on a Tuesday night as opposed to a Saturday? I think it's well within the party's capabilities and private membership organization to move it so it's not on a Tuesday, even though that's what statute says that we want to take that challenge on. Because I think we have to do something to make caucus more productive. I think we need a negative effect one way or the other if we just use the current system that says if you do primary before caucus, less people show up for caucus, and not do a presidential race, if you do caucus and then primary, everybody waits until there's a primary to exercise their opinion on who the president should be. But either of those take into consideration that the caucus process needs to change to become more friendly, more capable of absorbing people who are interested in it. And it's like that, more people who have been tied into the idea that civic engagement is really, really important. I think that's why the caucuses are important to begin with. I think if you look at the way we do it in every other race, we do a caucus, assembly, we designate candidates to a primary ballot, and then we elect somebody from the primary ballot to do their duties. It's unfortunate that the presidential cycle doesn't allow that same process because the primary becomes too late in the cycle in order to get it done.
Thank you, sir. I would like to suggest that we don't need a presidential or a senatorial primary, because we should do that through our political caucuses and select our own representatives to the ballot. I'd also like to mention that the year following 1912 was 1930. 13, right now. That is the year that we got the Federal Reserve and the IRS.
Mr. North.
So I would like to second Ms. Cage's statement that the primaries belong to the parties. They do not belong to the state. I think that's what you were saying. And
That's exactly it.
we're in agreement.
That being said, I guess at this point in time, where we're at the current state law, what would we need to do? I mean, I totally agree that this is a party function, but the legislature has made inroads into this process, so we're
I would tell you that I think there's a basis to have the legislature involved if you're going to run a primary that the people pay for. The taxpayers pay for the primary. I would refer you back to the language in Title 140 and Title 98, which give the parties the ability to opt out of all primaries. So what that would entail if we were going to eliminate primaries the way we do today is is we would have to have significant changes in our bylaws and our process between Congress and Assembly in order to do that. Those laws can be changed earlier in the fall of 17, which is plenty of time for the legislature. Prior to 20, but there will be substantial changes required in bylaws. I don't know what it's like on the Democratic Party, but I'm assuming there's similar things would have to be.
So the Libertarian Party is already set up to do their own primaries. They don't need to change their bylaws, and I would recommend that all the other parties change their bylaws and let's repeal the laws that require primaries.
Senator Zong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we look at this and we talk about taxpayer dollars, has anybody done a cost analysis on what it would cost for each party to do its own primary, how that would function, and then how other states, because obviously I believe there's other states that the parties pay for their own primary, how those are done and how they're paid for?
I don't know that I know that there are other states that the parties pay the primaries between the Democratic and Republican parties. Cost estimate would depend on the level of security you want in the election. So, and also how you buy, right? So if you have 7 congressional districts and you have state at-large delegates that you must bind to a primary process that you were doing on your own, you would have to set up a structure where you had ballots counted. They would have to understand challenges legally from candidates who decided that there was a challenge to what happened to be given the congressional district or overall. So you have to set up a structure. Today, the cost of running the assembly process is somewhere in the $250,000 to $300,000 per process range. I would assume that by the time you engage either the apparatus or the kind of clerk that would pay them to do this, we're talking somewhere north of 4 or 5 times that amount, but I don't have a specific number other than that.
Can I? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I just have an answer to your same question. Your question isn't whether or not parties should have to pay for it. It's whether or not you're going to take money from those who don't want to participate in primaries to pay for another party's primaries. We might have been talking about Obamacare. So it's the same issue. If you're going to take money from other people to pay for a specific party's primaries, you're locking in the socialism.
And I think my question is more directed at him. And maybe this is just talked about, may not actually be the case. At some point, there was a discussion that, for example, each candidate for a statewide race ponies up 10 or 20,000 to help pay for a primary election. I don't know if there's other states that do that, and I'm trying to understand it. Easily to be, to agree with you that if a taxpayer, if you're going to pay for something, you want to participate, I can understand that. And if they don't want to participate, they shouldn't have to pay for it in some aspect there. So I'm trying to understand, if we would go to that one, what it might cost, how do we levy those costs to the candidates, and so trying to sort through that way if that's possible.
Senator, the answer to that question is there are states that do allow candidates to pay for ballot access within the party. So Arkansas, to my knowledge, is $50,000 for a presidential candidate to have ballot access within the Republican Party primary in Arkansas. But you have 17 candidates that have some total of money in the process. So that is part of their process. I think if you go that route, the thing that you do, especially if you run primaries inside the party only, the state petitioning process for a candidate to get on a primary ballot would have to be looked at and changed, governed by the party only on probability. In fact, I personally believe that. I'm not quite sure why the Secretary of State does the petition process today, given that it's strictly for the party itself. We appreciate it, but I'm not so sure that that's the way it ought to be as a taxpayer. Anyway, yes, you could sell essentially ballot access. It is done in a number of states.
Do you think the other side of that, then, the candidate is going to have to pony up some money? Do you think that will limit our ability to get the candidates?
It's a good offer because it should have to do, I believe, constitutionally, or at least fair from a party perspective. you would have to allow 2 ways to get on the ballot. You would have to allow an assembly-like process to be ballot access to the digital primary, and you would also allow either a modified petition process that's done by the party or a financial commitment to get on the ballot. You would have to have 2 ways to get on the ballot, otherwise you would create a problem to start.
So in that scenario, if we created 2 ways, we would have a person who went one way paying for the entire cost of the primary.
Depends on what the fee is. I mean, in states where it's $5,000 or $10,000, it's not nearly enough. If you have a $5 U.S. Senate candidate race and you said to them, let's be honest, they probably all spent somewhere, most of the petition on spent somewhere between $150K to $250K petition odds on the ballot. If you gave them a ballot extra $250,000, they would probably jump up and down and joy for that type of scenario. But you got to get that through the membership of the parties that agree to that. And a membership meeting, many probably would be reticent to accept that sort of ballot access.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
That's fine. Can we agree that the Libertarian Party is the poorest party that you're in? We can agree to that, right? The Libertarian Party would be completely opposed to government-funded primaries. So if it comes down to it, the Libertarian Party had to hold a primary, we would figure out how to do it with their own fund without having to worry about drafting in tax dollars to pay for the Libertarian Party primary. The Republican and Democrat Party is a lot richer. They can figure out how to do it a lot easier than the Libertarian Party.
So let me focus on that for just a little bit. It's a Libertarian Party. How would you perceive that happening if you had 2 people that wanted to have a primary for a governor's race?
So we had that as our last state convention. We had 2 people who were vying for the Senate, U.S. Senate race, Billy Williams and Gavin Kent were the 2. It came down to it where it was going to be going to primary coming out of our state convention. We went pulled them both and talked to them, and then we worked it out where Lily Williams came out, the person who was going to run for U.S. Senate, and Gavin Kent back down. So that was one quick way to get it this year. Going down in the future, we would change our bylaws to adjust accordingly so that we could have all primaries done within the state party and not rely on government to fund the courts.
Thank you, sir. I think in answer to that question also, we already have the means to have those races, and we do not need a primary. We have 7 or 8 candidates that were running for the U.S. Senate who were elected, who made it to the assembly, and of those we had the election, and one of them came out. Now, because we have a primary, he also has to spend a lot of money running through the primary, and that kind of negates what he's already done because he's starting with 0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and actually, a couple of things. One of the comment I'm going to throw out here, and that is well, let me start with a question, and that's to Mr. North. You had said originally that the Libertarian Party was prepared to conduct their own primary. It sounds like in the discussions you've had since that statement that's in theory, that you actually haven't put that together, but this leads me to my comment. Maybe I'll just make a comment and let you interact on it, because it sounds good, but if you're going to engage in an actual election process, you're either going to have to replicate all of the mechanisms that the county clerks have and the Secretary of State has in place, or completely reinvent that wheel, which would yield something other than what the average Colorado citizen understands as an election. Do you really, so within that context, how would a primary be conducted by the Libertarian Party? And let's start with how many are registered for the party right now, and then just how do you guys see the mechanics working there? that out?
So we haven't worked that out, it's not part of our bylaws yet on how to conduct a primary. But our board would get together and determine how to do it outside of government. There are about 34,000 libertarians. I haven't pulled the last Secretary of State numbers, I'm not sure, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood. But we would figure out how to do it. We would go do the fundraising on our own. If we couldn't pull it up to do the fundraising, we still would not ask the government to do the primaries for us. Because the Libertarian Party is against using other people's money for their party business.
Well, with all due respect, I believe that if you would ramp that up to the majority of the registered voters in Colorado, that it would not be a truly a functional system. And I'm not meaning to give advice as much as to get impact, input from everybody here. But I think we need to put it within the context of, is that really a viable alternative? The way I see it working out is probably how a lot of municipalities and special districts end up doing. So they're going to conduct their own elections. So what they end up doing is simply hiring a county clerk to take that responsibility. I think every party would end up looking at that and saying, this is multiple times what we're going to spend on our entire campaign effort this election season as it is, so we're not going to start. Any reaction, and I entertain it from everybody but start.
That could be, and if the different parties wanted to get together and say, we're going to go together to fund the primary, that's perfectly fine, because it's still a group of people volunteering to give up their money to do the primary. There doesn't have to be a primary. I mean, each party can do it without doing a primary. They can do it through a caucus and, argue in their state conventions until they end up with one person that comes out as who they're going to put on the ballot. It doesn't have to be a primary. It can be whatever the state party chooses to put on the ballot. It doesn't have to. Why do we have to rely on the government to do that for us? That's what it always comes down to.
So fortunately, by the way, Chairman North, we may get back to more revenue than you do, and I'm not going to use your balance sheet is worse than ours. Therefore, I don't agree with the but with regards to what we're doing, so on June 28th, my guess is that both major political parties and Democrats and Republicans will see somewhere around 500,000 people vote each in a primary. 500,000 people, 500,000 votes without the electronic approach you're talking about would be a nightmare for credibility, for recounts, for any number of things. And more importantly, in my mind, if you did it all the way to December and you didn't hold the primary, I believe this capital would be inundated with dissatisfied Coloradans who have, at some point in time, really paid for this primary. I haven't seen anybody object or raise a bill recently to say we shouldn't conduct the primary on June 28th using people's money. I think the reason why 98 and 140 are coming into play is because people are saying we're using our money, we're using how we all out of people vote. But in reality, 500,000 without the apparatus of the Secretary of State and the county clerk's head for our party would be almost impossibility. I think we would just franchise a whole bunch of voters if we don't continue to conduct that primary very least.
One last, Senator.
Yeah, and let's keep your replies as succinct as possible. You're the party representatives here today. How do you feel about unaffiliated voters donating money to the Libertarian Party, joining to impact your primary, the Republican primaries? Where do we see? Do we want to let the unaffiliated voters vote? Do you want an open primary, a semi-open primary, a closed primary? Can you weigh in on that topic?
So first, the Libertarian Party still stands by, it's their party, you must be a member to vote. And according to our bylaws, it's 90 days before, and we would want to stick with that. If an unaffiliated wants to vote, create an affiliation or join an affiliation and vote in their primary.
Okay.
I think that's my biggest problem with the current primary is that in order to go to the caucuses, you had to register with the party and become a member and actually participate in the caucuses 90 or 60 days before, I believe it was. And then you would have at the primary people able to walk in and decide to be a Republican that very day just because of the laws that we have in place now.
I also would not ever want to have an unaffiliated voter vote in a Republican primary. It's a private membership organization. I think at least you can be a member, have the purchase effect, you can do same-day affiliation today. A true open primary would be completely open, would be Democrats to vote Republican, Republicans to vote Democrats. I am going to speak for my discussions with Chairman Palazzo. He also does not want an open primary where unaffiliated voters can vote. It's too easy to affiliate to make the compromise that we have now.
Thank you all very much for your input on this, and very much appreciate having representatives of both the Republican Party and the Libertarian Party giving their input on this. And take all the heart, and thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and keep moving. We're falling a little bit behind, so let's bring up the representative from the Colorado Secretary of State's office and the County Clerk Association, Mr. Tim Griesmer, and Ann Anderson, I believe, is for Matt. You are here. That's great. Mr. Matt Crane. Tim, since you want to raise all of it.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, and thank you to members of the committee for inviting us to participate today. Just to refresh everyone's memories, during the last session, our office did publicly support the efforts to reestablish the presidential primary in Colorado, both in the forms of House Bill 1454 and Senate Bill 216. While supportive of the caucus system for local and state races, Secretary Williams believes that presidential primary is the best way to get the largest number of Coloradans' voices in selecting presidential candidates, as well as the best way to make Colorado more influential in those contests. Obviously, these two pieces of legislation were unsuccessful, and our office is interested now in ensuring that any future legislative action that may come out of these discussions is workable, first of all, for our clients or the voters of the state, as well as for our Colorado election administrators, the county clerks, and personnel in our office. That being said, I just wanted to lay a couple of topics on the table as recommendations for this committee to focus on and to work on unpacking while you're touring the state and having these discussions with stakeholders and citizens. The first of those is cost, which has come up already on the funding mechanism. I believe the fiscal note for the presidential primary bill that came up in the last session was around $5 million. Now, under current state law, our office is not reimbursed for primary elections. So we had supported funding direct cost reimbursements from the general fund as opposed to our office having to begin reimbursing primary elections, which would constitute a sizable increase in our business volumes. The second topic is participation, which also has come up already. Since 1992, the unaffiliated voters have been able to affiliate out election day if they wish to participate in the primary. Our office supported the temporary affiliation aspect of 1454 because it was the best alternative to an open primary, to a completely open primary. It also created a public record of what voters were participating in from the parties and candidates and who's voting in their elections, or actually support. Success or failure of Initiative 98 is also something that would have to be considered for future legislation. The third topic is the interface with the existing caucus system and timing of these elections. As I mentioned, the Secretary does support the caucus system for local and state-run candidates. Ideally, for a presidential primary to have an impact on the national race that we held earlier in the cycle, as opposed to the current primary in late June. If legislation was to contemplate combining the state's existing primary with a presidential primary, and if such an election was to be held earlier than the current late June period, this would have a cascading effect on all of our current statutory deadlines that are on our elections calendar, including petition deadlines, assembly deadlines, affiliation deadlines. That's something that has to be considered very carefully. Aside from the impacts on the calendar, legislation would have to contemplate how delegates to national conventions would be awarded, which is something that Chairman House is discussing already. Whether they would likely be bound if there was a presidential primary, the bill might have to contemplate whether that was a winner take all or proportional system. And lastly, members, our office is standing up, has stood up a committee which will be meeting next month called the Bipartisan Election Advisory Committee, which is composed of several stakeholders, a couple members of the legislature, that Secretary Williams stood up to replace the old COVID committee that had been sunset recently. Their task is to evaluate a lot of Colorado's election laws and systems and make recommendations going forward. And this is one of the topics that we'll be touching on. I would encourage members of the committee, and I would have it on your fairness for you to connect with their conversations so that everyone's aware of other discussions that are happening. And also to provide the committee with any sort of statistics or data that you need from our office to facilitate the work. Thank you very much.
Mr. Crane.
Good afternoon. Thank you, members of the committee, for the invitation and the opportunity to come and speak today. The Colorado County Clerks Association did not take a position on House Bill 1454. Our association does support the idea of a presidential primary. However, the way that 1454 was drawn up, we'd like to see a few differences in that. One, would like to see the primary, presidential primary combined with the June primary, as it would save taxpayers money. We also would like to see a cancellation clause in the presidential primary bill. It makes no sense for a sitting president, if they aren't in a contested primary, to need name recognition at the cost of $2 to $5 million to Colorado taxpayers. So to move forward without a cancellation clause involved wouldn't make any sense. In terms of the proposed initiatives that are out there, proposed initiative 98, we do have great concern about that initiative for a number of reasons. While the Colorado County Clerks Association has not taken a formal position on unaffiliated voters participating in primary elections, most members are sympathetic to the fact that political parties are private membership organizations and should be free to set their own rules on participation. We also find that the process now for unaffiliated voters to declare a party up until 7 o'clock on election day is not a burdensome process, especially now that the Secretary's office has implemented online voter registration. If unaffiliated voters are to receive a ballot, it should be done in a method that is pragmatic, efficient, and does not create voter confusion or undue cost to the taxpayers. The proposed initiatives for state primaries and presidential primaries are statutory proposals, and they do have technical flaws in terms of running an election, including timeline flaws for candidate petitions and conflicts regarding minor party participation. The concept of the combined ballot or super ballot, as is in proposed initiative 98, where a voter would receive all major party contests and only be able to vote on portions of it or have their vote voided, is a serious ballot design flaw. Other states have utilized this method, but they have a significant ballot rejection rate of 8 to 10% or higher, where ours in Colorado is closer to 2%. The residual vote rate, which is the ballot rejection rate, is a metric of the quality of your elections administration. And Colorado has done a fantastic job over the last 20 years in terms of elections administration and making sure that our process is clear, transparent, and as accessible as possible for our voters. The last thing we want to do is make the process more confusing. We should not intentionally implement this flawed design and move backwards in the quality of our elections, especially when there is a single solution. The initiative for state primaries and its legislative intent, this is proposed initiative 98, states that all voters should vote with the same means. However, this initiative doesn't allow that to happen. It purposely creates a confusing method that sets an unaffiliated voter at a disadvantage, which seems to conflict with the stated goal. In terms of right now, Republicans get ballots with Republican candidates on it. Democrats get ballots with Democratic candidates on it. When you take a ballot and you put both parties, or if we involve minor parties as well, 3, 4 different party candidates on one single ballot, that would just create voter confusion, and the Clerks Association is very concerned about that. We have the technology already in place in voter registration that all voters use to do this without the potential for causing for confusing ballots that cost so much more for unaffiliated voters. We're setting up, essentially, we'd be setting up a separate system for unaffiliated voters, when the idea is to create one system that's fair for all voters. This initiative does not do that. When a voter registers, which all do, they can designate their party affiliation now to receive a primary election ballot. And again, that's not burdensome. The proposed initiative scheme is costly, confusing, and increases risk of inaccurate elections, and again, is a step backward in election administration. You can see this played out in California's primary with no appreciated increase in participation.
This reduces voter confidence in outcomes, which should not be intentionally pursued. The Colorado County Clerks Association, of course, would like to be included in any future efforts to translate policy into effective election administration on behalf of the county clerks and the citizens that we represent. And with that, we appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, gentlemen. Are there any questions for Mr. Crane? Senator Wood.
Thank you. Mr. Bridgeman, have you picked the committee members for your bipartisan election study committee yet?
Not completely yet, Senator. I believe the last time I heard an update on it, I was still waiting for a member of the credit caucus who's going to be on the committee. I believe the rest of the members are also.
Okay. Would you share with us when they are set, who's on that committee, so that we have?
Certainly will do.
Yes, Your Honor, there's no question. Thank you, gentlemen, both for being here, representing your association and the Secretary of State. So, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. We will continue on our step here. Our invited witnesses, Mr. Harvey Branson, of Colorado Group, and Curtis Hubbard. I'll let the Colorado vote. If you can both come on up and take a seat and give each your 5 minutes, and then we'll open it up for questions. Harvey, please proceed.
Thank you very much. I'm Branson from Eagle County. I am actually a Democrat, and my local official, bigger capacities, including the state level county chair. I first want to quickly comment things that have been heard. I didn't realize that the government subsidized primaries but the defense here. I can mount such a defense, but I'm not going to do. I don't understand City Council's problem with combining the presidential with the regular state primary. I'm glad to hear that the CCCA agrees with me. In fact, I personally agree with what Matt said. There's an understandable dislike and distrust of the mismanaged caucus. The caucus convention process can be improved, made more accessible, more scalable in response to presidential hearing cycle. National party leaders need to know that the caucus is not the end, but the beginning of the process. There's clearly an interest to vote more members of political parties, a new presidential primary election, and arbitrarily make the nomination process more accessible by sending ballots to all party electors. But if it replaces the caucus convention nomination process, it avoids key consensus building meetings that build political communities. Everyone can see that political parties offer value beyond providing a shoehorn into office and the structure of a highly publicized disagreement. I hope so. If so, we must defend the local processes and substantiate that value. Pundits and press are not a substitute for functional caucus and political convention process. Parties have deliberately turned deliberative national conventions into overblown formal responses, celebrations, and solidarity, while unofficially expressing opposition. A looming dark cloud of sore losership clears the deck for all candidates as early as possible. The same regressive mean works even before the caucus. It affects contests are down the ballot. So this right here is about to me. This is about that a single contested race on it. That is what I'm talking about. This is not an indication we don't need a primary. This is an indication we need candidates. We need work. We have to rejuvenate the political process. And critical of how political parties have allowed the distracted press to ignore the meaning of grassroots mechanisms, platform development, and delegate selection, and candidate recruitment. Perhaps the Republicans have lost touch of what it takes to implement a republic, and Democrats have lost sight of democracy. And unfortunately, vice versa. Nevertheless, I am defending the caucus convention process as a model for consensus building and injecting real meaning into the capital D and capital R that connects constituents' intentions with candidates before and after the election. In fact, party activist insiders are more active as to be expected. What must be ensured is that these parts of caucuses and follow-up meetings are reached by everyone who has the desire to participate. But this participation was also not so easy as the House Bill 1354 scheme for temporary partisanship. Our laws already adequately provide a balance of barrier entry and opportunity to join our new recruits to each party or engage. They are being affiliated with causes that are prepared and conducted with high turnout in mind. It seems that they're not. Colorado residents deserve representation in the legislature and in the lobby will defend their interests in the face of the natural self-interest of incumbency. Legislators in this meeting deserve a vibrant expression of sense to take difficult positions on behalf of citizens that face the pressure of various government power sources. My suggestion to rejuvenate the parties and broaden participation is to retain and reinvigorate party caucuses, hold them early in the presidential nomination process, operate the presidential straw poll and slow from caucus to convention, presidential campaigns and attract polls. Parties need to anticipate and encourage enthusiastic participation in diverse local venues, not vast and ungainly aggregations of multiple races. Candidates in petition to enter the presidential primary or meet the threshold at the party state convention. Candidates for national delegate are elected from each five-year campaign. This is what we do today. Results comes to the list in order of votes received. Presidential candidates and meet thresholds are included on the newly added process on the state partisan primary ballot. The results of that first primary election are provided to the parties for use in allocating delegates previously elected according to their discretion. That program makes the party's interest in self-preservation, in self-definition, and in growth. It also allows for broader engagement of the partisan election through an extra context on the existing primary at which no cost. Add to this, the picture of understand the pressure to voice 35% of Colorado electors are unaffiliated during the primary of public funds. This, I think, is a serious issue and hasn't really been discussed much yet. We've seen proposals for additional open primary before the state primary. That would be very extensive, unquestionably interfere with the caucus convention process. There's separate goal during the first partisan primary, very informative, and results will be distributed to the parties for use in their decisions at their discretion.
That was fine.
Okay.
Let me let Curtis go ahead and get his, try to get in the rest of your stuff. Pretty much have. Curtis, please.
Thank you, Senator Grantham, members of the committee, and for the opportunity to speak here today, and also for the opportunity you're providing for Colorado voters to weigh in on this important process. As the Senator said, my name is Curtis Hubbard, and I'm here today representing the group Let Colorado Vote. I am going to speak in favor of increasing participation in our elections and ending the disenfranchisement of more than 1 million unaffiliated Colorado voters who now make up 37% of the electorate. The need for Colorado to modernize its systems was made abundantly clear in caucuses in March. As the Denver Post reported at the time, hundreds of Democrats were left in the cold, thousands of Republicans did not get to vote, and 1 million unaffiliated voters were left on the sidelines. Here's something that few Coloradans know. Roughly 188,000 people turned out for the caucuses. That means that fewer than 5%, or 1 in 20, Colorado voters had a say in the presidential nominating process this year. Fewer than 5% of Colorado voters had a say in the presidential nomination process this year. Colorado can and should do better. As such, we will ask voters this fall to restore Colorado's presidential primary and to give unaffiliated voters an equal opportunity to participate in taxpayer-financed primary elections. Lawmakers earlier this year failed to act on these issues, and in the view of our group, the policies that were pursued did not go far enough to involve the increasing number of Coloradans who choose not to affiliate with a party. Consider these numbers. 47% of voters aged 40 and under are unaffiliated. 50% of voters in Colorado aged 25 and under are unaffiliated. 2/3 of newly registered voters in 2014 chose not to affiliate with a party. Perhaps you see the trend, but let me provide some additional context. Colorado leads the nation in growth of unaffiliated voters since 2008. And unaffiliated does not mean uninterested. Colorado has some of the highest general election turnouts in the country, but our primary elections, even with the advent of all-mail ballots, we've seen participation lag to the point that where in 2014, just 1 in 5 registered voters participated. Members of our group tried and failed to get lawmakers to support these issues in 2015. As a result, as provided by Colorado law, we opt to pursue statutory initiatives with the aim of increasing citizen participation in our democratic process. Restoring the presidential primary will likely draw considerable interest from candidates in 4 years and will almost assuredly increase Colorado voters' influence in the process, which, as we see in the presidential general elections every 4 years, is a valuable and important position to be in. And opening our primaries to the state's 1.3 million unaffiliated voters will bring Colorado in line with the majority of states that already let independent voters participate in that phase of the election process. 30 states allow independent voters to participate in the presidential primary. 3/4 of states allow access to legislative primaries for unaffiliated voters, and 2/3 of states allow access to congressional primaries for unaffiliated voters. Under our proposal, independents would be allowed to vote in primaries without being forced to take additional steps that, intentionally or not, currently limit their participations in elections that they help pay for. I would like to address the remarks of the County Clerks Association, if I may. They talked about voter confusion and states that do this that might have ballot fail rates of 8 to 10%. The question to ask yourself is, what is a bigger problem? 37% of voters who can't participate, or 8 to 10% of ballots that have a problem that could be remedied. I'd also point out, they noted that California's open primary system, which is different from the semi-open primary system that we're proposing, failed to increase turnout. It should be noted that the Republican nominee was already known and had no competition, and that the Associated Press essentially declared that the Democratic presumptive nominee had secured the necessary delegates the day before election day. And then finally, there's been the claim that it's already easy to affiliate in Colorado. But the facts show that unaffiliated voters are not affiliating, and they don't want to affiliate, but they do want to participate. In 2014, 17,000 unaffiliated voters took the step of joining one of the two parties to participate. As of the end of December of this year, only 500 have come back to independent status. We think that our measure would certainly deliver more than 17,000 unaffiliated voters to the process. We know there's broad support from Coloradans across the spectrum for the simple changes we're proposing, and we expect voters to demonstrate their willingness to improve our election systems this fall. It's time to modernize Colorado's primary election systems. It's time to let Colorado vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hubbard. Mr. Ransom, any questions for either these gentlemen? Senator Wood.
Thank you. Mr. Hubbard, I wanted to know if you would address the comments earlier that the ballot initiatives that you're proposing, your group has proposed for this fall, discriminate against the minor parties.
So I'm not sure how that's the case. 98 essentially allows any party that chooses or that has a primary election to allow unaffiliated voters to participate, and the small parties are given the option of closing their primary to unaffiliated voters. And the reason that's included in there is because when there are only 30,000 non-Republicans, Democrats, or unaffiliated voters in the state, we didn't want those small parties or minor parties to be overwhelmed.
I guess I would encourage some touching base with perhaps Mr. North, Jeff Warrock, and fleshing that out a bit, because I do believe that the minor parties are in agreement that they are disenfranchised by the ballot initiatives as they go forward. So I think it warrants some further communication outside of this setting, perhaps.
I'm happy to do that. They're entitled to participate in the primary process now. Unaffiliated voters are not participating in the primary process that their taxes pay for. So the 37% of Colorado voters who are paying for primary elections are the ones who are disenfranchised, in my opinion.
Okay. Mr. Knight.
Yes, I'm going to take 30 seconds to do that. Make an amendment to the proposal that we're having. That is to have a ballot for unaffiliated voters and possibly non-major party voters, not have a primary, to vote on a ballot that contains all candidates. And it allows them to vote for any candidates on the ballot through approval voting, which is an even simpler form of voting than used today, because it does not have to move that you must vote for only one, you can vote for as many as you like. The result is subject to approval. It would cost participating in ballots, which of course is what we will also do. But in my case, that information would be more informative of what the true interests of the unaffiliated and of the party members are, and that information would be given to the parties for their use in deciding how to decide the delegations for the national convention. And I don't understand why moving our all this press moving ours to state primary 2 weeks earlier, I think, and that doesn't have a huge effect on what the election delegates information by the Secretary of State's office. That's why I believe that is a very excellent compromise that brings tends to solve problems for all parties, the parties of the and the non-parties, and the individuals who are not parties at all.
Any further questions? Gentlemen, thank you again. Thank you. Are we first? I'm going to have our address.
I do want to, I couldn't have my remarks, so if anybody wants to come to me and ask them, I'll get that handled. Here's a card that explains the people party.
Thank you, gentlemen. Folks, thank you for your participation in that. We are going to go ahead and just dive right into the public testimony portion of this. And in order to expedite this over the next 3 minutes, I would have left. I feel that I'm going to go ahead and call the first 4 names that are on this list and have you come on up and get started from there. Just stand alone and each of you get 3 minutes apiece, and we will, of course, open up for questions and answer time from the panel. So let's begin with Mr. Frank Atwood, Jeff Warrock, Courtney Kyle, and John Wren. Before we gentlemen come on up and sit in one of these 4 seats, doesn't need to be in particular order. Seating. So, Mr. Atwood, correct?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you go ahead and start? The other 2 gentlemen come on up.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for all the experience of giving us an opportunity to express. Voting for one or more candidates, the candidate who most votes. I believe approval voting would be especially appropriate for non-affiliates to use as a non-binding presidential primary election method. This election year of one voter frustration and anger argues for approval voting. The voters want to express an opinion on each of the candidates. Approval voting gives the voter the freedom to cast votes for both their ideal candidate and hold their nose elected. Also, if there is a terrible candidate, the voter would vote for all the others except that candidate to express its feeling of how terrible the candidate is. The idea behind approval voting is that the voter still only gets one ballot. But on that one ballot, he's able to express his opinion about each of the candidates. With regards to the bureaucratic modifications of the voting machinery, is to change the overvote threshold from number of seats to be filled to number of candidates on the ballot. In 2013, clerks and reporters of Colorado, Douglas, and Jefferson County all said there would be no additional cost. Approval voting for major parties gives you fewer spoilers and less sabotage. No longer are you worried about a parole or a leader stealing votes and losing them from the system. A native voter has the opportunity with approval voting for an L board. For minor parties, the payoff is viability and visibility, because no longer are you concerned about wasting your vote. You're allowed to be pragmatically honest. Pragmatic, go with the requirements. Honesty lets you express your opinion. There might actually be more civility, because as candidates are trying to recruit crossover voters, they'll be less likely to trash their homes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Mr. Wren, John Wren, come on up. I'm gonna have you come on up and sit up here. Who's out? Jeff, Laura, please go ahead.
Thank you, Senator Grantham, and members of the panel. So I'd like to take a step back for a moment and address topic one of the frame, and that is Donald Trump is actually the master of this. He's able to create the argument and kind of set the parameters, and then suddenly everybody kind of falls into that, the sweeps up the media in his wake, and everybody talks about what he wants to talk about. I noticed that the questionnaire, unfortunately, has fallen into that pitfall. That Colorado vote has, thrown a big rock into a little pond and created a big splash, and there was a panic reaction and creation of a House and Senate bill, very hastily to try to sort of do damage control or whatever we call. And then now, it's like, even though the bills were effectively collapsed, the entire argument is now kind of framed in terms of what they want to talk about. And I think that it's important to, again, taking a step back, look at a few of the issues. And one of them is that, unfortunately, within Colorado, by statutes, the election law is a bit contorted. It's a bit of a hodgepodge patchwork. And we've seen the results of trying to reform it over the past few years. The Democrats have put in various so-called election reform bills, which ended up creating a violation in the Colorado Constitution, which the Libertarian Party was able to then overturn through court cases. But the point is that if we really want to examine the electoral process, we need to take a step back and actually include all of the lies it is and look at the potential pitfalls and snags and gotchas. One of the problems with the petitions is that, and why we're arguing that the Libertarian Party is being disenfranchised, is that if we do opt in to the primary process as they outlined it, unfortunately, there are provisions within the existing statute that would basically deprive voters of, they would end up with a different kind of ballot depending on which method of voting they use. If they went to the polls, it would be one kind of ballot. If they were an absentee ballot, they maybe get another kind of ballot. If they're mail-in ballot, which is slightly different than absentee, yet another kind of ballot. I believe that all of the legislators have received email with a big table showing each of these scenarios and what the effect is based on the attempted bills and these proposed initiatives. So basically what I'm saying is that we don't have a solid bedrock to build on. We're building on a sandbar and a hurricane is coming. So, I don't think that all of these things need to be pushed back, and we need to kind of consider the thing a little more holistically. It was pointed out to me that within the presidential, I'm sorry?
That was your 3 minutes. If you need to finish that thought, please go ahead.
All right, yeah. Well, there's this, actually, no. Yeah, let me just wrap up here. I'll say that, I will acknowledge that I would like to see an inclusive process. The caucus system is voluntary. You can't say that a voter has been disenfranchised if they're not allowed to show up and participate. The other issue is, unaffiliated voters. It's kind of like they don't have their cake and eat it too. When's the last time you saw a real serious independent candidate? They just don't have the resources, they don't have the organization. And yet, somehow they want to sort of go off the process that people who do put that time and the effort and the energy into it. So I just, I think we're going to talk about fairness. We need to kind of look at both sides of the coin. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And colleagues, I'm going to just go one by one through these unless you want to stop and interject and ask questions of the individual as they finish their testimony. Okay? So, Mr. Cotton, welcome back.
Senator Grantham, members of the committee, my name is Courtney Cotton. I'm here on behalf of the state of Colorado caucus. And wanted to take my 3 minutes and talk a little bit about that. That is the primary focus of the group that I represent. There's lots that have been said today, and I don't want to repeat any of the issues. But a couple of things I want to share with you is that this concerned group, the Colorado caucus, number one, we opposed the legislation that was introduced this last legislative session. We opposed the legislation that was introduced the previous session. And we're glad to see that go. We have real concerns over the initiative process. And now that we've got mediated and the other issue on the primary, those can cause some real concerns as to the ability of our citizens to go ahead and vote and participate in the election process. And so those are our concerns. But more so, we want to talk about the caucus. We think the caucus is a fundamental benefit of being a citizen of Colorado. Because not only does it allow you to go ahead and participate, but it brings together your neighborhoods, your communities, people that you know. I can remember when I was doing it, when I served my time in the churches, that my wife would bake cookies, we'd have coffee, we'd have all the candidates coming into the house, everybody's talking. We vote on the candidates to the county convention, we vote on the ones that are going to the state, and everybody walks away from there feeling complete that they have truly participated in the selection and in the process of electing candidates. Now, it doesn't get more homey than that. And I'm only using that as an example, but I think that is very, very important in today's society that people get together, meet, discuss the issues, elect the people that they want to go ahead and represent them at those 2 levels. And so we really want to see the caucus stay put. I really like the fact that the Republican chairman mentioned that they're going to do a whole education process. I couldn't be more happy with that, because I think the caucus can be used for more than just making billions. Again, it's building relationships, it's building agreements, it's very all-encompassing and allows people to see who represents what their political philosophy is, and which direction they are. What better way? I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Wren, please.
Thank you. Thank you for this process. My name is John. I'm the agent for a Colorado Legislature called State Caucus. Courtney has been a friend, and also asked him to consult with me a year ago and again this year in efforts to stop legislation that I believe was misdirected. The efforts a year ago were just strictly personal. This year, I don't have registered the committee just so people would know that it was there. There's a state caucus in 2002 that was formed to fight Amendment 29, which was Camp Caucus. And I found out about that Amendment 29 just by accident. I knew that it was the editor, update editor for the Denver Post for living in Arapahoe County. I signed them, I moved downtown, I signed them, so I've been for 2 years to election cycles. I tried to find my caucus, and I can't find it. They just have a list of caucuses in the paper. I said, what? And he misunderstood my question. I was understanding, right? All facts and brain, clearly. He said, we haven't decided if we're going to take a position on that. I didn't know what he was talking about, but then I went and looked it up, and I was in 29, it was pending at that point to kill the caucus, and it should have been killed at that point, because we experimented with the presidential primary, and the presidential primary had virtually killed the caucus. People were interested in the presidential primary, they wanted the caucus, and they left it there. Really probably should have been put out of its misery. We didn't return to the system that we have now, and a system that has served us well since it was formed in a special legislative session in 1910 in August. And Governor John Shaffrock, John Shaffrock, held the governor the head of the legislature until they adopted some progressive reforms, initially recall in the Colorado caucus. And it came out of this common debate back then between the progressives and the political establishment in Colorado. It's a wonderful system. It served as well. Curtis Martin wrote about it in 1957. He recognized it served as well. It's worked so well that not much has been written about it on its behalf. Its system has been under attack by powerful forces right from the inception. There was a damn multi-political operation in Colorado led by some people who used the power well. Robert Spear did a lot of good things, but it's a damn multi-political operation. And honest John Shaffrock saw that this was just wrong, that the voice of the people was not being heard, and that's where the caucus came from. He forced it through, and Spear immediately started trying to work against it. Party leaders don't like a caucus because it puts the rank and file party members in charge of the party. So from Spear to Steve House and Rick Pulaski, you see party leaders that want to get rid of the caucus because it makes their job a lot easier. But it's a wonderful system. People say it radicalizes politics. Exactly the opposite is the truth. You get leaders together in the same room discussing things. It's different than talking on the radio. Dan Ritchie, who started this Better Colorado effort, went around the state. You know, I'm not sure if he stayed involved with it because he sort of disappeared, but I had a personal conversation with him. He agrees that it's a moderating influence. The caucus is a wonderful thing that should be protected, and I hope that you're good stewards of it as you go around the state collecting information. It's easy to bias the collection of information, support for determined conclusions. I really don't keep an open mind about the caucus because I think citizens in Colorado should, well, grassroots will stand for the university press. Why there's literature that makes the case for the caucus. I think it's going to be motivated that why Iowa's idea of a caucus season, then a primary season, a national primary is going to be adopted eventually. States will be bidding to try to get caucus states. It's tremendously to our advantage. We have it, that's observed and protected.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions from any of these folks? I do appreciate your being here. I do maybe just a couple of comments real quick. I'm going to give you an opportunity for a chance to plug. Is there a website that we can go to on?
Yes, there is. There's www.usa.org, and there's also Center for Election Science. Thank you very much for approval voting USA. Thank you.
And Mr. Orr, I appreciate your comments as well as far as the participation. You can choose to participate or not. And, there are third voters in this state that have chosen not to participate in the process of what they're taking to that whole thing.
If I may, Senator, I also, being shameless plug, being in the blood application developer, I had a whole other section that I wanted to go into in terms of what is possible using technology that may not have been previously possible, and that's something that I believe should also be explored when you're conducting the studies.
Thank you very much. And for review of the rest of you that will be coming up and testifying here, all of us are very accessible as far as our email, phone numbers, and any information that you want able to relate to us today during 3 minutes. Feel free to send it to us so we can assimilate as much as we can in this process. I appreciate that. Thank you, gentlemen, very much.
Mr. Chairman, one last comment, really good.
Let's bring up the next four: Carolyn Martin, Joan Poston, Joe Webb, and Michael State. Are four of those still here? Looks like, yes. And we'll start with Carolyn Martin. And just a reminder, as you begin, if you can just go ahead and state your name, and if you represent anybody in particular, or just where you're from, then start with that, and go ahead and begin.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and study this very important issue. My name is Carolyn Martin, and I speak on behalf of Colorado. The founding fathers knew that in public is best to accomplish, and I want to rise to an educated and involved collector. Without the pillars of knowledge and action, who we are as a country and what we stand for as a people will fall as we are blown by the wind in every direction, moved by every wind of people's passion. This is precisely what happened during the current presidential primary. People are angry at the state of government. They demand action to satisfy their dissatisfaction. But looking to the government to solve the problem that lies in the hearts of men will not satisfy. With great consequences, seen and unseen, known and unknown, leaving our posterity to reap the consequences, some of which we cannot possibly imagine. Think about this. Colorado instituted the presidential primary and carried out 3 presidential election cycles. The first year, statewide turnout was strong, 31% of active voters. By the third election, turnout had jumped to 15%, while nationwide voter turnout had increased. Even with the implementation of all-mail ballots, I do not believe voter turnout will remain strong over time. All-mail ballots were instituted in 2014, statewide turnout for the primary was 22%. In 2010, the comparable non-presidential year turnout was 32%. So overall, it's increased to 10% in turnout since we implemented all-mail ballots. Our current caucus system, whereby delegates are selected at neighborhood meetings, is the purest form of representative government. Neighbors select neighbors to represent their neighborhood. Even if the caucus remains intact alongside a presidential primary, participation would decrease, shrinking the influx of new people and ideas. Participation at the caucus in non-presidential years is historically lower. If a presidential primary is instituted, participation at the caucus will remain constant, and so will those who attend, the party insiders. This would have a dramatic and interesting effect on local and state races. The government's role in elections is to ensure fair access to the ballot and protect against voter fraud. That's where your vote should be. The change in election law in 2011 affected access to the ballot and contradicts the current statute to this day. Concerning voter fraud, we know fraud has been committed on some candidates' petitions. Where else would it happen? All-mail ballots, safety voter registration, no checking signatures on petitions. These might be some of the areas to concentrate on instead of creating the presidential primary. And lastly, I just want to say something about what the Colorado representative talked about the unaffiliated to the fastest growing group in the nation since 2008. Well, if you historically look at the number of unaffiliated, in 1996, we had 36% of unaffiliated. Today we have 36%. So I don't know how that dip happened, but historically it has remained at 36%. In 2008, I didn't look at that statistic. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Joe.
Okay, I take this because we know the last I was kind of offended that they said there was no passion in independent candidates because I ran as an independent in 2013 and I was very passionate. And because I was running as an independent, I kind of got in touch with the independent folks, people. And then I ran last year in the city county member for county clerk as a Republican, and now I'm a Republican, and now I am the precinct captain of 937 Southeast Denver. And I'm here to speak about how much I enjoy the caucus and how much I enjoy being a precinct captain, and how much I believe that we need to keep this intact, and how this develops they warm and, a caucus that develops people who care, and you can become a community with the caucus. And to have a precinct is just, it's just a ballot that you throw into a box. And I think, when people look at, well, I went to this graduation party in Boulder, and I was the only Republican in the room. And, it was just after this, problem that they had in Denver with everybody, the Democrats voting in the East High School parking lot. Everybody feeling disenfranchised. And I personally think that was poor planning of the Democrats. Because they just didn't realize how the youth really wanted to vote with standards. And I was standing there and I promised my husband, I said, I'm not going to talk politics, I'm not going to talk politics because I'm running with the Democrats. And he said, oh, you can do this. But I didn't, and then I got called out. And they were all like, I don't know why we can't have a primary that everybody can vote in, even the unaffiliated or the independents. And I turned and said, have you ever been in a caucus? And none of them had. And I said, okay, if you don't know what you're doing, and you haven't done it before, you're not a cook, and you haven't been in the kitchen, and you don't know how to boil, it's not a good day, don't talk to me about it. That's how I got it. So, I'm here to say that, I like cooking, and I like, the caucuses, and, I will get a secrecy info with my ballot, because I live in the state of Denver, and that's, a city that is, a home rule city, so they don't have to follow the rules. And, they told me when I said I don't have a secrecy envelope, they said, oh, well, you just fold it up and put it back inside the instructions. And I was like, wowzer. So anybody knows how I voted when they take it out. And that hurt my feelings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Senator. First of all, thank you for coming out on this afternoon, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all. My name is Joe Webb. I'm the chairman of the Republican First Congressional Central District Central Committee. As of May 4th, according to the Secretary of State's office, we have approximately 81,000 Republicans in First CD, which compared to the 204,000 Democrats makes me customer's last day. Anyway, anyway, I'm in favor of retaining the caucus, but the point I want to make to you is, as a chairman of a major party political committee, where there is a lopsided disadvantage in terms of registration. And this has to do directly with the recent controversy regarding Blaha, Frazier, and Kaiser petition once in the Senate. As I understand it, the statutory requirement is that they have 1,500 signatures per candidate. You multiply that by 4, you have 6,000. Do the math, and it's approximately 8% of every registered Republican, all registered Republicans within the first congressional district, who would have to sign that petition in order to validate their petition, their candidacy for a primary. My point, Senators, is that if you choose to go to a primary, what you should think about is a low threshold for presidential primary candidates in any district that is lopsided. Now, one last point, and I'll be quiet. I have 81,000 Republicans in my district. The CD5 Democratic chair has 98,000 Democrats, and the CD3 Democratic chair has approximately 110,000. This cuts across all parties, so I would prefer that if you do go to a primary, that you not block out presidential candidates who may not be as well funded as someone who might be a major candidate. I want all the candidates, whether they be Democrat or Republican, to get on there, and that is the way I can see it, the lower primary, lower signature requirement for a petition. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. State?
Yes, sir. My name is Michael Stapleton from Public County. I also serve as the legislative director for the Libertarian Party of Colorado. We value this opportunity to have the voice of the citizen and political parties heard in this process. I was very pleased to be in a legislative session that attempts to rush through legislation were unsuccessful. If legislation is enacted, let's continue to involve parties and people in every step. Citizen engagement at all levels is critical in maintaining a free republic. Elections are a tool of the citizen, not action of government. In my opinion, the caucus, the assembly, and the convention process builds relationships, allows for the discussion and debate with our fellow citizens, and helps develop civic engagement needed to effectively hold government accountable to its limited role. The parties themselves, being private entities, need to do a better job. And as a libertarian, I know how it is very important for us to reach out to the people, to get them involved, to be active, to increase their activism, to engage in the process outside of voting to hold government accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions on any of this for any of these folks here? Thank you so much. I appreciate your input on this. Let's go ahead and continue on. Down the list, Mr. Wayne Carlos, is that how you say his name? And Neil McBurnett, Jimmy McFarland, and Joy Nelson. Let's see, we've got 3 people. There's one. Jimmy McFarland, you left. Okay. Yeah, Josh Zemer, come on. Josh is here. Very good. Wayne, go ahead and introduce yourself and go ahead and proceed.
My name is Wayne Carlos. I'm the vice chair of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. And we have a lot of concerns with what's on the table to allow us the opportunity to express ourselves. Number one, we, as a Libertarian Party, we were certainly not for the primary system. But in the event that there was a primary, we were certainly against any public funding for it. All the political parties are private entities, and whatever system they are obligated to follow should be at their expense to follow the rules. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Always appreciate your remedies. Neil Burns.
Hi there, I'm Neil Burns, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on an issue that I've been engaged in for over 3 decades. I'm active with the Center for Election Science, and that's the group that put out these approval voting cards, which hopefully everybody got. There are more that I have available for practice now. I've also been very active in other forms of aspects of voting. I've attended caucuses, I've been a delegate assembly, a delegate to Congress Assembly. But I'm currently unaffiliated, like 37% of Coloradans, and I really think it's critical what those 37% think as part of this process. And that's a choice. I've also been highly engaged in election integrity. I've put on some of the best audits in the country. In Colorado, that's the best audit law in the world, I think, which will help us actually look at ballots and sample them and get good results.
I agree with a bunch of the previous speakers in the sense that parties get to decide how they want to run things. Private organizations manage their own affairs. But what I really think we need is more information. And that's why I support voting. I'll put out the first approval voting page in the world when the web was young and all. Back in the 90s. So we need more information about how voters think. We need information about how all voters think. I think Colorado voters want and deserve a say in national politics with the presidential election. So I think we need a primary to help people vote for president and primaries. The only way to do that, though, is to get past the current first past the post system that we have, which only allows the voter to express a single opinion about a single candidate. Even though we all know we have a whole lot of opinions, voters should be able to decide what their criteria is for support and approve out as many voters as they want, as many candidates as they want. So like Mr. Branscombe and Mr. Atwood, and I think lots of people, I support approval voting to help us do that. The way that would work then is that candidates, we would put all the candidates on the primary. It's pretty easy to get candidate access in Colorado, and that should continue to be the case. Voters should be able to vote for whoever they want. And the voters' affiliation should be listed on their ballot, just their affiliation. So now the parties will have a huge amount of information. They'll know how their members vote for their party or other parties. They'll know how people from other affiliations vote. They will have a huge amount of information to wisely choose, as they see as a private organization, how they want to put candidates forward. And they can even put multiple candidates forward. I mean, eventually, no reason we couldn't use this in the general election also. So this works on existing voting equipment. It doesn't require complex changes. It's essentially how we vote for council now. You can vote for multiple people in the council race. You just set the equipment to allow votes for as many as there are. It's easy to explain and understand. And it's better than any of the alternatives like instant runoff voting or voting choice methods, which end up with complex problems that can make it as strange as if you support somebody else, it hurts your candidate. If you support your candidate, it might hurt your candidate. They're crazy things in French choice. So let's have an open primary for all, give that information to the parties, and let the parties choose who to run with that information.
Thank you, sir. Joy Nelson.
Hi, my name is Joy Nelson, and I'm going to just let you know right now, I am a legally blind person. So if you try to question anything, I'm not mistaken. So, I am from Denver County right now. I'm in precinct 127. I am a precinct leader. I have been a precinct leader in Arapahoe, Colorado County, and Denver now. I am 100% only for the system as a blind person again. I think it's actually one of the best things. My grandfather, who's totally blind, is able to go and actually have a voice, and he feels like he has a voice. We all have a voice, and that's one of the things I disagree with on everybody that has put it out there. The Republicans didn't have a voice, they did have a vote. Yes, we did. And we get together, and we can sit down with our neighbors and determine who we want. This is the grassroots. We as the people need to be able to determine who is going to run in our House districts or congressional districts for president, governor, whoever. We need to keep it at the very in our community and then go up from there. Every single person I've talked to who has actually gone to assembly and from district to state, feel like this is my first time, they said, I can't believe that I didn't realize that this is how the process went. And they said, I'm so thankful I finally came because now I know my voice is actually being heard. Because if all I have to do is just go hit a button or mark it on a piece of paper, my voice is not being heard. There's no way that just doing that is going to actually start the grassroots and they know what my voice is. That's why we need to talk the system.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nelson. I think you echo many of our sentiments as far as participation in the caucus process. Senator Lundberg had to leave a while ago. He had at the beginning. He said he had been going to the caucus for a long time, since 1972. I probably been going to about the same time.
I've been going since my parents started going back in 2004. Just before I turned 18, I wasn't able to vote in that year. But I have been involved except for 1 year, ever since I was a leader, and I've also been on one of the boards in one of the counties. But that, you need to be able to, if people are not showing up to the caucus, that's them, that's not us. As a crazy leader, we call them, we tell them, we let them know. And I have been involved, my brothers are involved, we've been involved ever since the very beginning. And that does not necessarily mean that I am someone who's out there and everybody knows. I don't. They don't know me. I'm not part of the elite. I'm not the primary list. Only the elitists get involved in the primaries.
Thank you very much. Josh, please. Go ahead.
I guess I have a little bit about that. My name's Josh. I'm a 38-year-old. I'm married and have 3 kids. I'm a firefighter for the water department here in the metro area, and I thank you for hosting this meeting and giving us an opportunity to speak. So all across the nation, people are frustrated and angry. So what's the reason for the anger? Is it the typical politicians are liars? No offense. Is it the typical politicians who don't follow through when they're elected? I say those opinions have been around a long time. I think it's something a little bit different. I believe what people are really upset about is that their voices are not being heard. You know, Republicans and Democrats, we like to argue, we like to fight, we like to call names. There's one thing that I think everybody can agree on. That's what we want. We want our vote counted and we want it heard. I'm a Republican, so I can't speak too much about the Democrat process. But I'll tell you what, if I was a Democrat, I'd vote for Bernie Sanders. But the majority of the citizens in Colorado and super delegates decided that they were not going to vote with people. Instead, voted with Hillary. I'd be pretty pissed. Then you got the Republican side. We had caucus this year, and caucus voted for a presidential primary, and that's what we did. However, delegates were elected. Problem is that these delegates are not obligated. They're not obligated or committed to vote for the person that the precinct elected. I'm constantly telling people, hey, you gotta go vote, get out and vote. The responsibility for every single person every single time is why it doesn't matter. My vote doesn't count. I believe in the current system that we have in Colorado, you're absolutely right. If you want people to vote, and if you want their vote to count, then you put it on the ballot. You make it primary, and the delegates are obligated and committed. If people vote for San Antonio Cruz, and they drop out before the convention, then the delegates split a portion of the candidates, let them race based on people's vote. That's the people, that's what they voted for. When it comes to unaffiliated or independent voters, if they don't care enough to sign up for the party, then sorry, they don't get to vote in that primary. I can tell you I am one person who is Democrat to determine my party's choice. And vice versa, I'm sure a Democrat doesn't want me to have the same party's choice. Right now, I can tell you that every Republican I know is leaving out of the Republican Party because of the way it's set up now. They don't feel their voice will be heard. The establishment party leader is currently trying to keep control and it's causing anger. Politicians and party leaders need to get their hand on the pot and stop trying to control the outcome. The citizens, not the politicians, don't want to elect the president. I believe the caucus allows control by the party leaders, and therefore I vote for primary. You know, the idea of everyone sits around, has cookies, and talks about issues. That was great for a certain day and age, but that's not how the world's headed right now. I argue that most people under the age of 40 have no desire to sit around and talk politics with people they don't know. Instead, they just want to cast a vote. They want it to be quick and easy, and they want to go ahead and take a check on Facebook and send it to the side. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for any of these folks? Comments?
Can I make just one more brief comment? Approval voting has been used in Greece, it has been used in other countries, and it has been used at the University of Colorado for student elections. So we're getting positive input from its practical use around the world. And that can be something that I think would really allow local opinions to be heard and for parties to say what they say, and then the general election for citizens to vote for anyone from any party or running as independent, and really allow us to find somebody that people approve of as a leader. And I think that would improve elections and governance of the country.
Thank you. I haven't heard Greece using a positive example.
This is not recently. But of course, Greece, we all owe a debt of gratitude to Greece for coming up with democracy.
Thank you all very much for your input on this. Appreciate it. Let's go ahead and continue. We are coming close to the end of our list and our time. Jill Thompson, Russ Haas, Daryl Davis, yes, sir. Martin Mendez.
Mr. Chair, while we're coming forward, I would like to remind everybody that if you haven't signed up this week, we have surveys we want to make sure you fill out the surveys and turn them in, take them home, share them with friends, neighbors, get as many as we can. And if we run out of time for speakers, at least we get your opinions on the survey and we'll have future meetings as well.
And in that same vein, before the rush of everyone to get out, as we close the meeting, we will be having, I don't know if we announced this yet, Senator Woods, but we do have a meeting scheduled for July 30th in Grand Junction. So if you know some folks out in Grand Junction that would be interested in this topic, you would like them to come out and speak to us and testify as well, please let them know. So July 30th in Grand Junction, and we are still working on location for that, so we'll make sure that that gets publicized well. And we'll go ahead and begin. Did Jill Thompson already leave? I guess so. Well, let's begin with Russ Haas.
Thank you for the opportunity to come out with the matter to the life response. I'm probably the single local epicenter of the liberty difference. However, I've been in caucuses for almost 25 years now. If you are a new and young person coming into the caucus, you stand a very good chance of getting elected to be a delegate, at least of one level, perhaps two. What kind of leverage is that? Would you have a primary system? I don't think so. So are we a republic or a democracy? Can a town hall type meeting work at the state or at the federal level? And can a single roll of the dice, single party structure, support for candidates in the new? Is there really a downside to affiliating the party solely for the purpose of selecting that party's candidate? On the other hand, a friend of mine, when he came back from Florida, was not went to upstate New York town to run his wife's bowling alley in a restaurant. He was visited by the town officials who told him he really needs to manage if he was registered Democrat. And later in the week, he was visited by county officials who told him that he really needs to advance if he was to be a Republican. So there may be a downside. But we didn't really get a visit from the police if you registered. It was really that difficult to affiliate with a party. On to the next one, should voters really be informed? And should uninformed voters vote? As I say, with respect to my friend, we were in Southwest Asia. When we got a ballot, we had the slightest idea of who the local candidates were. But should we have voted against like that? Probably not. So I speak in favor of the caucus, and the caucus is the only way we can address the dilemma of a voter who supported a candidate who is no longer in the race. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Russ. Darrell.
Darrell Lewis, let me first announce that I'm a Libertarian candidate for U.S. Congress in the first congressional district. And I was nominated for the state convention. We got all our nominations statewide, and in about a couple of hours in the afternoon. So, and I understand a small party might not work at the Republican or Democrat. I used to be Republicans, we actually did it all done within the day. I don't think we had any priorities. They did remove the fact that we were going to have one for the U.S. Senate and one person chose to run for U.S. Congress instead. So we worked that out. Maybe we get a bigger party, we wanted more interest, all candidates running. But I think it could still be worked out at a party level because you're in a room, how you break it up, whether it's like a county level, you're meeting candidates, you should know the group of people that's there should help decide who they think is the better candidate. If they choose to run a less of the two candidates, they might really lose the general election. You know, it would be the party that would to run the best candidate possible. I don't know if that's happening on the national level. I won't comment on that too much. But I also did, I was a Republican from 96 to 2006. I went to attendance neighborhood caucuses and went up to state conventions and things like that. So I see when I worked. And for people, you know, it's just, you go to your neighborhood caucus, you talk a couple of hours on a Tuesday evening, 7 o'clock. Generally, it's February, a lot of stuff going on anyway. You just take a couple hours out of your day to go to that. And we always have pieces right now. We decided to go on, move up to Lyon County, and we decided to move up to state. So I think it's just, people that just choose not to put that time and kind of start raging because they're not getting the choices because they choose not to do that. Now, I understand that the technology is changing, you can move on, maybe some of this electronically, go to caucus level online or something, and then people can move up to, you know, whether you have a big meeting statewide. But I think before you completely throw out processes, you should look, replacing, like we've been watching elections around the country, sometimes the states that have caucuses where seem to do a better job of selecting candidates than the ones that have primaries. Just because of, you know, and also on the presidential level, those candidates have come in, like Ted Cruz is up in Wyoming, whatever. He took the time to go up there and meet people, and chose to pick them, whereas if you go to primary, then it's going to run all the ads for your presidential level, even for the U.S. Senate, run ads and ways to affect those voters on a bunch of issues to get polls, get the point. So I think to have people hands-on looking at your candidates better than just based on TV commercials or something here on talk radio. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mendez.
Thank you, Chairman Graham, for having this hearing, all of our state group members. My name is Martin Mendez. I live in Adams County. I'm in Senate District 21, House District 32. I have, when I was back in 1981, actually 1982 is when I attended my first caucus. And I'm here, by the way, to speak in favor of the state meeting caucus. I like the caucus system. I think it's a good idea, and I think it brings a lot of participation. I am sorry for the 37% of Colorado voters who choose to be unaffiliated, and in my opinion, they silence their own voice. We have a two-party system in this country, whether you like it or not. And last time I checked, all of you on this study group had to affiliate with one party or the other. I don't think any of you are unaffiliated. As is the audience behind me, most of us have affiliated ourselves because that's the system. Now, there's a lot to talk about in the study group. I just want to focus on one thing that I do enjoy when I attend the caucus system, and that is that you got to put some skin in the game. You got to lay some money down. And most Coloradans don't realize that you have to pay for the next level, which in Adams County is $35 to go to the county assembly. There's another $45 to go to state convention, right? And if you're going to go to the congressional district, it's another $35 or something like that. So I laid down $80 that night, right? Now, most people won't do that, even if they are affiliated as Democrats or Republicans. So we have that small, what was it, 5%, somebody said, people that are free March 1st, that August 9th, that actually have the money and that actually want to be delegated and go on to the next level. Yes, a lot of people are shut out, but in my opinion, they kind of have shut themselves out for the most part. Now, March 1st, a friend of mine, I said, what did you go to caucus? He said, well, it's so good for the kidney dialysis machine. Okay. Another friend, why did you go to the caucus? Oh, well, I had school that night. So I do understand that it's difficult for people to attend a Tuesday night caucus, but that is up to the parties, right? The private parties that Steve House was talking about. They need to make it easier for those people somehow, right, as we're talking about, to participate, which I think they should make it a week-long thing. They should use technology, texting, the internet somehow to get people involved in that caucuses that can't make it because they really are doing other things. And they really are busy and they have their lives that they have to take care of. And they can't just make it on that one night between 7 and 30, whatever it was. So, but I do like it that we have to do, as a society, as Americans, we have to do some soul searching, okay? Are you going to be a Democrat, or are you going to be a Republican, or you don't care for either one? Fine, that's our choice. The caucus system, in my opinion, allows us as Americans to make those choices for ourselves. Some people want to go on to those greater levels, higher levels of the assemblies, just to learn the process, and it is fun. And I do agree with the other testimonies that the neighborhood caucus, it's a blast, it's fun. Nobody's used that word yet. It is fun to know your neighbors, to get involved, to participate, to exchange ideas, and if God puts us in the game. When you put some money, suddenly you are involved, right? We all know that. You just laid some money on the table, and that's, to me, the deal breaker right there. Most people will not come and lay their money down to pay for those next assemblies. And I think that's a good thing. I think it separates the boys from the men. I think it separates the people who are serious, who really want to get involved with politics, who really want to put their ideas forward, from people who just want to play along. We had this gentleman that was just a firefighter guy. I don't know if he's still here. That said that the younger generation wants it to be quick and easy. It's not quick and easy. All right? It just isn't. I'm sorry. You have to do some soul searching. You got to come to some conclusions for yourself, and then you got to fight for those conclusions. Thank you. My meter's about to expire.
I appreciate all of that. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And again, if you have more comments prepared, please make sure you get them sent to us if you want us to take the rest of your comments. Thank you very much, Commissioner. I appreciate it. Thank you. Let's see, we've got 2 more groups of 4 folks, so we're gonna be here just a little bit longer until it's probably take us right up to the 3:30 hour, and we will stop there. Let's close some comments. So let's go ahead and get Mr. Lieutenant Rutledge, Karen Carlos, Tony Gross, and Cliff Anderson. And again, Mr. Rutledge, if you go ahead again, your introduction, let's go ahead and proceed.
Well, I'm Dr. Rutledge, and most of what I actually came here today to say, it's already been said. I'm a applications systems developer for a large company whose name doesn't really matter. And I'm actually also a county level officer for my favorite political party. And for reasons which you may see, I don't want to name them either. There's been a lot of things said today. The ones I want to highlight here. The selection of candidates should be left to the parties. And that the idea of semi-open primaries makes about as much sense to me as demanding that vegans be allowed to stay and have the beef council plans its campaigns. But think this, I was asked that briefly by the approval voting people, is that the election is not for the benefit of the government. An election is not for the benefit of the parties. An election is for the benefit of the voters, the people. And there's an awful lot that can be done to clear away space for the people to express their own personal opinion. Taking a look at the primary that's going on this summer, I got a glance at my wife's ballot, and the thing that struck both of us is that except for an attorney slot, there were no real races. Everything was a bullshit ballot. And if you're not familiar with that term, that's the situation where one candidate who has met the standards set up by those in power appears on the ballot, and you either vote for that candidate or you don't vote in that race at all. And I think it's an embarrassment to the state and the people of Colorado that happens at all. But it happens regularly. And there is almost always no writing opportunity either. So, I will second Mr. Hart's comment that we have the technology to do a lot better than we're doing. One thing that comes to mind, just as an exercise outside the box, is replace the entire primary caucus whatever system with ballot access petitions with no minimum. Anyone can gather the signatures to put themselves on the ballot, as few or as many as they can. Anyone who comes up and signs their petition and another total. Imagine the flash crowd suddenly appear anytime, anywhere, with nothing but a clipboard with flag.
Mr. Rogers, 3 minutes.
Thank you. Bottom line is, elections are for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Harper.
Thank you. My name is Karen Carlos. I'm a registered Libertarian. I'm also the communications director for the Libertarian Party of Colorado. Something Jordan said before, but I do think they need to be restated. And first of all, with all due respect to Mr. Mendez, we do not have just a two-party system. Plenty of people here are giving eloquent testimony that there is at least another third party in her own right. To say we're just a two-party system and try to rig the system in that way is like saying you must drink Coke or Pepsi. Doesn't matter if you prefer beer, and it doesn't matter if you prefer water, and it makes sense of that. Political parties are private entities, and they need to be able to set their own rules of voluntary association. I heard some complaints about unaffiliated voters not being represented. That is their choice. It's their valid choice. To me, that complaint is almost like complaining that unmarried people do not have a spouse. They are choosing not to be there, you're not making a better choice for them. If they wish to be involved in the processes of a private political party, they should either join one or form one, as the Libertarian Party did several decades ago, almost 40 years, and pretty much proved that almost anyone could do it. So that is certainly another viable option in our country. They are not prohibited from participating. I would also say that I also support the caucus, convention, and assembly system for the reasons stated by others. To put it to the state is to depersonalize the whole political process that we need to be intimately involved in, and I do not think that is not only the right thing to do, because I think it's giving the power to the state that it doesn't rightfully have. I do not think it's doing any favors to people. I would also say that it negates some aspects of personal responsibility to become engaged and educated. I would also give my support to the alternative voting systems that were given, such as approval voting, which may in fact give greater choices and solve some of the problems brought up by the people. And that's it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Mr. Gross.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, senators, for allowing me some time to speak, and appreciate your patience. This is a long process. This is the first time I've come and testified on anything. It is my era of activism. I am a new libertarian, but an old voter. I changed my affiliation last year. I attended the Libertarian State, the Colorado State Convention this year, and it was the first time I had attended any sort of political convention. It was honest, it was open, it was organized. You should be hearing footsteps. We are the fastest growing party in the United States, and we're the third largest party in the United States. We do not have a two-party system. I'm keeping a close watch on this process because I think it can be corrupted by dominant party interests. The government has no business in how a party selects its candidates. I believe that the problem with the lack of turnout, and I may disagree with other people testifying here, is not how we vote or all this stuff, machines and all this. It's a credibility problem with the parties themselves. The parties need to fix their own problems. The reason they don't have voters come to vote is because they don't like what they have to vote for. Please keep government out of our selection process. It's not the fault of the people of Colorado that they're not voting. We only have to look at ourselves as party activists. With all due respect, this survey bothers me a little bit. We have a time-honored tradition, Libertarian Party, of having the option to vote none of the above, or NODA. I vote NODA because this is like trying to decide whether you're going to shoot me with a gun or a bow and arrow. It leads you to a conclusion that we do not, or I don't want. So most of my responses here are no. Thank you very much for allowing me the time to speak. You honor me with this opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
Before we move on, can I ask a question? The survey was designed to try and help us get information. What would you like to see? What would help in the survey with information? Because it sure wasn't intended to drive us the same direction.
No, I appreciate that. And that's, I think, what Libertarians bring to the table. And that is first of all, what's our problem? And I'm testifying right now that the problem is not with the people of Colorado or something that can be legislated. I'm saying that the problem should be, the parties need to look at themselves and their own credibility. And I really don't have the opportunity to say that here. So I think that it needs to be very general and very open. Questionnaires are very difficult. I've done many in my lifetime.
I appreciate your comment, but this is my testimony, and I think you're taking it to heart.
Well, and thank you, because it is indeed important. This is good us too. We're trying to put this, trying to gather information. So I appreciate your comments as we try to gather that information. It's important. So thank you.
Mr. Anderson. Fascinating. I had the perfect envelope to bring my remarks in. Good afternoon, Chairman, Senators, my name is Cliff Anderson. I used to be a precinct leader. I'm now a district captain. The Democratic Party is a private organization. The Republican Party is a private organization. So is the Libertarian Party and the other parties. What the heck is the state legislature doing interfering in private organization business? This year, the caucus was raucous. So what? It worked. It's worked for 15 years, longer actually. Rattle on, they want to have its voice heard. All they have to do is show up. Good things require effort. Politics is participatory activity. Join the party, make the effort, do the work, participate. Mr. Martinez so very eloquently said. Of course, the state has the duty to provide fair elections. But that's got nothing to do with how the party chooses their delegates or the candidates. Sure, we've heard from the party chairs asking you to interfere. But it's just because they are incompetent in running their party organization, digital, as promised, for the GOP party. That's not when the legislature has a duty nor authority to do anything. If the people do not like how the party is going, there are other options. They can change it, they can start a new one, or move to discover what the is out there. These major party chairs are choosing the easy path. They want to saddle the taxpayers with additional costs and lay the blame for their future mistakes on you. Do not fall for this trap. With all due respect, but I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? I don't know if you're very clear.
Yeah.
They said that, I was told that I still have my correct.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our last four folks, Neil Matai, Sue Moore, Sumner Brunson, and George Athanassakis. Got it. Haven't practiced. Neil, as you get seated, we'll start with you and introduce yourself, who you represent, and proceed.
Well, good afternoon, Senators. My name is Neil Matai. I'm the chairman of the Adams County Republican Party. I'm also on the state executive committee for Colorado Legislature Party for the last few businesses at this time. About 5.5, 6 years ago, my wife and I were team moved over here to Lincoln's Coast. And we moved from states that were primary, presidential primary. And we came here and we started to learn the system, the process that you have here in Colorado. And I'm telling you right now, Senators, this is the one process that's open to all people in the state of Colorado. If you only participate. We got involved. In 2012, I got involved in a local county meeting. Got involved, ran with this crazy thing called national delegates of the Republican Convention. Ended up winning, went to Florida, came back, ran for vice chair of the county party, won with the most votes, even more than our current state party chair, including the county. My head of influence, I work with many different people. Became chairman of the county party while still working like every middle class voter, taking care of my family. Became chairman, ran again for national delegate, we went to Ohio. I got involved. On the East Coast, you never involved. What people have not told you is that in the last couple of states, on the East Coast with these presidential primaries. On the Republican side, 70 to 82% of the registered Republican voters do not show up for the presidential primary. So what I'm saying here is that I understand the anger that the people have towards politicians. But when we have children or people who don't, take responsibility for their actions, why are we going to reward them for it? Many people have worked hard for different political parties. My favorite governor of all time is Democrat, former governor of Pennsylvania, Robert Casey. I respect we're all Americans, regardless of political parties. But people need to take responsibility for their actions. How are we going to hold people responsible if they don't show up to office? And then come back and tell us, the system is unfair, the system is rigged, the system is run by party leaders. I'm a father, I'm a husband. I don't know what a party leader other than the former role that I had let the voice of people be heard. In Adams County, as a state executive meeting last August, I told the executive committee, we want a non-binding trouble. We got it. I said that we wouldn't have a non-binding trouble. I would voice the people heard. That's the Constitution. We did have it in January of this year. We put on our Adams County Facebook website the process diagram for any voter in Adams County to know how you go from caucus to county to state to congressional all the way to the Republican and the numbers and everything there. Our party is very transparent with all the information up there. And yet the turnout was low. We advertised in local community newspapers, we advertised on Facebook, we advertised on our website, I did radio spots on radio stations to advertise voters, then the turnout was low. There is a point where what we do last November in Adams County, I think it's consistent across the entire state, 70% of the Republicans, I think that's consistent with all voters in Adams County, did not return their mail-in ballot. We make the elections easier for people, and yet it's become worse as participation. Now, to the legislature here, I would ask them, are you going to return the money of the taxpayers for those 70% that did not mail back their ballots? You want to talk about policing taxpayers? 70% of the people did not show up. They wanted to be involved in the primary, but they pulled themselves out of it. Friends, we robbed taxpayers last November by the inefficiency of the people, not the government. We got to stop because we have to understand something here. Who are we going to hold accountable? Today we have all these individuals here with different viewpoints. This metro Denver area is 3.1 million. This doesn't even represent. Where's all the outcry that we had just a few months ago? We must not be reactionary. You must be leaders with wisdom and continue to do what you did in the legislature to stop the creation of an environment that's not wise. Again, I came from the East Coast. Colorado has a fair system, an open system where any person could rise up to be the governor of this state. If you work hard and got the message across. What I would say is we need to apologize to 70% of the taxpayers who basically got the money earned last November for people not acting involved. We need to also understand is the government's responsibility to trust the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, because it requires us to have freedom for peaceful assembly. But if you're coming in and forcing people from outside of parties involved in parties, you're not giving us peace, and there is no assembly. We need to come back and understand that it is people's responsibility to stand up. They pull themselves out of the process, they need to bring themselves back in. I understand the anger. I fight for progressives. I fight for many people in my country. We will continue to be transparent on for all voters, but that's what we need to do. Is I have to step in and get involved. Save Colorado, save the province. It's the best thing you can have right now.
Thank you, Mr. Sure.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for conducting this study group. We really appreciate it. My name is Sue Warren. I'm the chairman of the Denver Republican Party. As chairman, I have 346 precincts in Denver County. For caucus, I had to arrange for 15 caucus locations, and my county had to raise every dime to conduct caucus this year. It required hundreds of volunteer hours to put it together. There were caucus packets to be printed and assembled. There were voters to be verified. Results had to be tallied and reported. Blizzards had to be staved off on March 1st. You never know what's going to happen in March in Colorado, but we got it done. So you would think that I would be against caucus. It would make my life entirely easier if we went to a primary system. Believe me, I would get a lot more sleep. However, I'm firmly in favor of the caucus system. I think As we all said, it's, you know, if unaffiliated choose not to participate, that's entirely their right to do that. But they don't get a voice in how the parties conduct their business, how we elect our delegates, and how we elect our party leadership. As far as the big and easy thing, the millennials want, you know, I'm sorry, that really doesn't hold water with me either. You know, it requires exactly an hour and a half of your time every 2 years to participate in caucus. I really don't think that's a heavy lift for anyone. People take time off from work and their families to do a whole lot of silly things, and I think if you really want to be involved, requiring an hour and a half of your time every 2 years is a big one to make that happen. Could we improve caucus? Could we communicate it better? Absolutely. However, we do have limited funds. You know, we do the best we can with what we have, with the volunteer base that we have. But so we do the best. We do the best we can. Thank God, technology is helping us out in that regard. It doesn't cost much to have Facebook ads and things like that. You know, one argument that you can make that I think does hold water is that we have no way of involving our military in caucus. And I think that we can improve on that. I think with technology and Skype and things like that, hopefully we can make that a reality in the next few years. You know, as far as people with disabilities who physically can't get there, I think we can improve on that as well. To sum up, I think caucus is an opportunity. I think it's a privilege, and I really do think it's a responsibility of each and every person who really wants to be involved in politics and have a voice to show up for caucus and to participate in our system. That's really all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Cassandra Brunson.
Hello, yes, my name is Cassandra Brunson, and it's so great to be here. Thank you for staying awake during all of us speaking and just being here and even waiting to the final four of us. So we appreciate that, and there's a few things that I just would like to say. First, I'm a Colorado native, and just an American advocate, and just love what's going on. I might be the youngest person speaking today, just witnessing some of the general citizens coming in, so I hope to be a voice for the millennial generation. I'm also the founder and president of the Colorado-based nonprofit, Melissa Colton. I am Colorado Choice for Miss Colorado. I have also been picked from America to represent the Middle East, recently this last fall, through Asia and Europe, and to be able to be a voice for them. And all around, just love the heart of America and being from Colorado, the heart of pioneership, and just knowing that nothing is impossible and everyone having a voice. When I did get a special invitation from Senator Laura Woods, I was eager to be able to voice one thing in particularly, to shorten the speed of just saying that I am in favor for everyone affiliated and unaffiliated being able to vote in the presidential primary. In this year's Colorado caucus, I was voted in to be a Colorado delegate. And even in that process, I did see that it was very unfair for the other people not to have a voice in who they believed to be president. They were a voice for themselves, but not necessarily for the people. And a lot of people didn't even know that it was going on. So, especially my generation, but also all generations, people weren't aware of that. So that was my heartbeat behind it, and even though I had a voice, they felt like they weren't able to contribute theirs. They were unaware that when it did come to vote, the delegates only could do that from Colorado. So, all to say, I firmly believe that everyone does deserve the right to vote in Colorado in the presidential primary, whether they're affiliated or not, at all times. Thank you.
Thank you very much. George Elvis. I just have to say this, prove that I can say it twice.
You did an excellent job. Mr. Chair, Senators, thank you so much for having me today. My name is George Elvis. I am the Republican candidate for the 7th Congressional District. I am the delegate to the Republican National Convention, and I'm the only federal candidate for office in my party who has endorsed our party's presumptive nominee. I am here to say that any movement from a caucus system to a primary system, or any weakening of our caucus system to to include scheduling the day for precinct caucuses on the Saturday after the presidential primary will have the effect of telling voters only wealthy candidates, the millionaires and the billionaires that steal a line from Bernie Sanders will be able to compete. Only candidates funded by special interests will be able to compete. It has the effect of also protecting incumbents from primary challenges. I feel that this is wrong. I feel that this is not in keeping with the intent of the voters, because ballot access matters. The caucus system allows regular people ballot access, and that is important. That's something that's being overlooked here. So if we want to tell our children that they can be president one day, part of that is making sure that we have a system that allows them to compete at every level. And the caucus system is that system. Secondarily, we are, as Republicans, a private organization. Democrats are also a private organization. I understand that many people in my party were upset at the way the state convention was handled. They felt that they didn't have a voice. Now, that was kind of my experience. My precinct caucus was run very well. I thought my congressional district assembly convention. However, if people are upset for how they were treated or what they felt the access was, that is the fault of the Colorado Republican Party. It is not licensed for the state to involve itself in the affairs of a private organization. If Bernie Sanders supporters felt that they were upset because they had to wait in long lines to vote, then that is the fault of the state Democratic Party. It is, again, not licensed for the state to involve itself in the affairs of how private organizations govern themselves. So what I would ask each of you is to strongly consider this, because this has more to do than just who has a voice and how is that voice heard. The implications involving ballot access, I feel, are quite significant and largely overlooked in this debate. And if people want their voices heard, then the people who should hear them first are their chairman, their party chairman, because they're the ones who should be held accountable. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for these folks? Senator Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you all for being here today. I wanted to ask my question to you, because you came from a primary state, primary caucus state. Can you confirm what George Adams' office just said about the presidential primary being more for the wealthy, Congress will be more for the grassroots? Does that play out in states where there's less?
Well, so the facts are, we moved from New Jersey over here, my home state is Pennsylvania, my wife is in New York City, in the state of New York. And the turnout in this presidential period, especially with the major Republican candidates coming from the state of New York, was 70 to 82% of candidates do not show up. That's your home state for their candidate. So the turnout has been low because people in those states have seen the system break. Parties control those systems. Whoever they want to put in power, whoever has the money behind those candidates, that's who comes to the table. And so if you look at California, they had no primary since 2000, so about 16 years now. And look at where they're headed right now. People do not have a voice. So I would also say that there was an earlier testimony about people not having a voice heard. Again, back to Adams County, maybe across this entire state, 70% do not have a voice heard, 30% or less decided elections at school board and city council. And that's unaffiliated have the right to vote, and everyone does. They still didn't vote. So there is a perception, and I don't have complete facts. I will tell you the numbers that primary states on the East Coast, people do not get involved because their voice is not being heard, and that they have the opportunity to vote.
And second was right now clarification. It's not just the presidential primary. What I'm concerned about is if we move to a pure primary system, so primaries exclusively, no caucus system at all, That's the system I'm talking about, and that's the system that has severe negative impacts on candidates down the ballot.
Thank you all so much, I appreciate it.
Whether we from the East Coast, all 100,000
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out and participating. As we're gonna leave this up for discussion of our members here who have any comments they'd like to make. If not, I'll just go to
I just would mention that we do anticipate having a meeting in Pueblo, we anticipate having a meeting in Fort Collins, we've got one scheduled in Grand Junction. If there still is a lot of activity and interest, and we need another Denver meeting, we will have one more here in the Denver area at the end of all the rest of those meetings. But we will send out information so you'll know when there are days and times, it was our desire to have them all before mid-September at the latest. So we're going to be on fast track that we can stay with us.
And please let the folks and friends know that, you know, if there is, join this process. That being said, I would really like to extend my appreciation to the members, the party folks from the Republican Party, the county chairs, the state chair, Libertarian Party individuals that obviously showed up force. I appreciate all your input today, and in fact, you're here. There is a notable absence here, unfortunately, of some others. We extend the invitation again. We extend the invitation to other members of the Democratic majority in the House and the minority of the Senate to come and participate. And I appreciate Senator John coming to listen in to your concerns. We also sent an invitation out to Mr. LPCO of the Colorado Democratic Party, and hopefully they will join in on this. We need all the input we can, and we know that they have great concerns over what's going on with this, and we certainly welcome their participation input and look forward to having that actually in the next several meetings. So again, we extend that invitation and hope to see them. But again, special thanks to the Libertarian folks who showed up and our Republican folks who showed up as well. If there's any other information you'd like us to have, please feel free to reach us via email and get that sent to us. We'd be happy to have that and include that in our deliberations and our ongoing process when we do this study and take the process. So thank you all very much, and without further ado, we are adjourned.
Thank you, sir.